Hello everyone, I am a man of many manga, and this is Highlight, a series where I take a manga that has done something spectacular and tell you what exactly that thing is. So, here's a question for you. How do you write a story that inspires reading out of genuine interest rather than empty curiosity? How do you make the reader care? There's no singular answer to this question, as this question touches on one of the most difficult tasks for any manga author, as every single one of them is forced to give their answer to this question in their very first chapter. The one trait that has evolved to define the manga narration style is a fundamentally visual narrative. Boasting less than half the words per page of its international counterparts, manga tends to use its art to tell the story more than the text, despite the fact that it doesn't waste its time with grotesque amounts of color. It's this visual narrative that holds the key to making a reader care, because visual storytelling can easily strive to be more immersive. Sympathizing with characters and experiencing things through them vicariously is the entire appeal of fictional literature. Otherwise, you get just a really boring, made-up history book. With that being said, storytelling has evolved a hierarchy to its techniques for what works well and what doesn't. Generally speaking, omniscient narration is less immersive than first-person narration, which is less immersive than internal monologue, which is less immersive than a vocalized soliloquy, which is less immersive than dialogue. Although some people believe that nothing is more subjective and intimate than internal monologue, the logic of correlating transparency of thought and intimacy is a very fictitious one. The most immersive storytelling is always the most subjective one, because hearing a conversation out loud while sitting under a tabernacle in the rain is far more common and relatable than intracranial X-ray hearing or casual conversations with an omniscient exposition deity. Enter a manga that I believe expresses absolute mastery of this narrative hierarchy, and tackles the topic of immersive and interesting storytelling perfectly. Fullmetal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. Arakawa had the genius, and possibly even unintended idea, to start the manga off with two main characters, Edward and Alphonse, the Elric brothers. But how does having two main characters make people care? Well, it does so in a few ways. Think about how having two main characters will force an author to write. Every new piece of information that arrives in the manga can be spoken by the brothers in conversation, with each one giving their own interpretations and reflecting their personalities in their body language and diction. A lot of the information that the Elric brothers discuss would most certainly be internal monologue if there were only one main character. But having the information made audible by the brothers' necessity to communicate makes the readers feel like they're eavesdropping on an actual conversation rather than seeing a character put on a show for them. Now, let's think about the problem that I call the sympathetic uncanny valley. A lot of main characters try so hard to make themselves into a representative of the reader's thoughts and desires that it sometimes feels like they're trying to be something they're not. However, with two main characters and a damn near perfect ensemble cast of strong-willed, unique individuals, you never are lacking for someone to agree with. You're never forced to either agree with the MC or just have a bad time, because with multiple characters and different points of view, every interpretation of the morals of an event are accounted for. If Edward says something awful that you really disagree with and you just wish someone would slap him across the face and tell him he was wrong, Alphonse is you, the reader, with a cold gauntlet for you to pretend you're wearing. Without the other half of the main character, there's no dramatic contrast to externalize what would otherwise be just a dull internal conflict. Edward and Alphonse vocally arguing out of their care for one another is ultimately what makes every one of their conversations carry such weight. With subject matter this heavy and a tone so serious, it would be very easy to just pick a side of a moral dilemma and jump right into it. But by having two main characters who place the well-being of the other over their own, the series walks a suspenseful and immersive tightrope, where at the end of every minor struggle, you feel like they learned more than you did. So next time you're reading a manga, look for the moment when you stop hearing your opinions in your head and start reading them from the mouths of the characters. Because when that happens, the author just made you give a shit. My name is Zach, and this has been Highlight. If you know of a manga that does something spectacular, let me know in the comments below. And also, if you've got any ideas on what type of video a person who's read a crap load of manga should make, let me know that as well. See you next time.